there I am. Hi, everybody. It's me. Or I guess I should say it's a me, but, you know, that would be a bit too cheesy. Anyways, so here is proof that I don't just play Gradius games. I speedrun Mario games, too. So let's do some Mario Galaxy 2. I assume we're good to start. So let's go ahead and get that rolling in 3, 2, 1, go. I just realized I was in charge of the timer, so I didn't even need to say we were ready for a countdown, but okay. So, what the heck is this game? Well, it's Super Mario Galaxy 2. I think I made that pretty clear. How do you speedrun it? Well, it's very similar to Mario 64. You know, you collect a certain amount of stars to actually beat the game. In this game, the magic number is 70, which you need in order to unlock the final Bowser level, and then you collect a star from there in order to actually go to the credits. So, there you go. That's what any percent in this game is. It's basically 71 star. And yes, this is a 3-hour run, mostly just because there is a lot of downtime and cutscenes. That's really the only major detriment to this game, though, and it'll kind of give us a nice, relaxing, nice chill run to start off this marathon with, while also simultaneously being able to show off some cool stuff. By the way, I just did a slope boost there. If you have a high amount of speed and you jump within the first few frames of landing on a slope, you can actually preserve a lot of that speed during the jump. You'll see that a few more times. Yeah, this is basically just an opening prologue sequence. There's very little interesting to note about it besides that one trick I just talked about. Basically just mashing through text for about half of it. So if anybody's watching and anybody has any questions about what the heck I'm doing, you know, feel free to pop them in chat. I am paying attention, so... Okay, so coming up, there's the potential for a text skip that I'm not going to get because I'm just going to mash my way through it, so whether or not I get it is effectively random. But it is possible to skip one or two of these text boxes here. I'm not going to get it. Yeah. So there are 5 text boxes there, but if, for reasons I don't quite understand, if you delay a little bit on the first couple, and then get one of them frame perfect, it's possible to skip some, but again, if you're mashing through, it's pretty much just inconsistent. There's a lot of weird stuff with this game that a lot of people don't, that like the community as a whole doesn't really understand, but that's kind of what makes it awesome. Alright, time for the first star. This is Sky Station 1, and we're gonna do some insane platforming right off the bat. So, funnily enough, standing still after that Luma finishes talking to you actually makes that launch star spawn cutscene end like half a second earlier. So, again, just awesome. And coming up, there's a really epic trick. Known as Luma Bounce. Alright, nice. So that saves 10 minutes, I'm sorry, 1 second. But, you know, basically the same thing in speedrunning. And basically, that's just a homing ground pound off the Luma in order to skip its launch star, which literally takes you to those planets anyways. So, really fun strat to have at the very start of the run. And right there on that last planet, I picked up a comet medal. There's one of those in every galaxy, and I'm going to be trying to pick up as many of those as I can. For reasons that will again make sense later. Now we have our first boss, Pee-wee Piranha. You're intended to spin at Pee-wee Piranha's shell like 2 or 3 times to break it, but that's a little too slow, so I'm just going to ground pound it once. Oh, dang it. I was hoping to use star hits to stun Pee-wee Piranha, but I did not aim very well. That second hit's a lot easier than the first because Pee-wee takes longer to run away. That's 1 down, 70 to go. And yes, star get. So I should probably go ahead and touch on the fact I am playing on the Japanese Wii U Virtual Console version of the game. But I'm playing it on a North American Wii U, which means I use totally legal methods in order to get it on there. So, Japanese text is faster than English text. I think the overall time save is like a minute or something, and then playing on Virtual Console adds time save from loads. So, but funnily enough, this is not actually the fastest version for any percent. It is the fastest version for the other categories, but the fastest version for any percent is actually the Chinese disc version, because Chinese text is even faster than Japanese text. But I don't own the Chinese disc version. I tried to buy it, but I accidentally bought a Japanese disc instead. So, but it's only a difference of like 18 seconds. So it's not that big of a deal. So unfortunately this does mean that you won't be able to understand any of the text, but don't worry, it doesn't matter. None of the text in this game is particularly important. Up next, we're gonna head back to Sky Station to get Sky Station's second star. So just to give you an idea on how much time Japanese text saves over English text, in this segment alone, you save about 5 seconds. So obviously that's going to add up over the course of a 3-hour run. And Sky Station 2, at the very start, there's a chomp cycle I need to catch here. Nice. The star has a lot of cycles in it, and missing them is usually really bad. This planet in particular is a pretty important one. Okay, so I was able to avoid grabbing that one up. When you grab your first one up, you get a short little text box that says, hey, you grabbed all extra life. But, so skipping it there doesn't actually matter because I'm basically guaranteed to grab a 1-up at some point later on anyways. But, you know, it is what it is. So something else I should probably touch on now, since you're probably going to be asking about this. Almost every time I land from a launch star, you're going to see the camera do a weird little twitch. And you'll hear like a clicking noise. That is what's known as a land cancel. So normally when you land from a launch star, there's like a 1-second animation that plays, but you can cancel it by entering and then exiting first person mode. Because this game is awesome. And doing that saves like 1 second every time you do it, and there's a lot of launch star landings in this run, so that's another one of those really important pieces of tech. That was a pretty good star overall. That's a pretty scary star to do in marathons because you skip that very last checkpoint, so if you die on that last planet, it's really bad. Galaxy 1 uses automatic checkpoints, so when you just enter a zone, you just automatically get the checkpoint. Galaxy 2 actually has checkpoint flags that you actually need to hit in order for there to be checkpoints. And if you don't hit them and you die, you go all the way back to the very beginning. So, just kind of one of the things about this game that's different from Galaxy 1, and it makes a lot of levels kind of terrifying because with a lot of the skips you do, you end up skipping checkpoints. So, yeah. Alright, now time for Yoshi Star Galaxy. So Yoshi is the most broken thing in this game. Because, and if you've played this game before, if you've spent any time researching it, you're probably familiar with this glitch. It's known as infinite fluttering, and it is what it sounds like. It allows you to flutter infinitely. And I'm going to be using that to go for a minor planet skip here. This is a very risk versus reward level skip. It saves 20 seconds if you get it first try, and it loses like 45 if you miss it, so let's hope I don't miss it. So the way infinite fluttering works, normally there's a slight cooldown before you're able to flutter again after you do an initial flutter, but you're able to crouch in midair, and doing so not only cancels your current flutter, it also cancels the cooldown, so you can immediately begin fluttering again. And you can use this to both gain infinite height, and also, if you hold the right angles, you can also travel for a great distance with a decent amount of speed, because momentum in this game is really weird. And as you just just in case anybody's wondering, I am local recording this run, so, you know, if you guys want to apply some, like, fancy video editing for the stream, for the VOD, when you upload it to YouTube or whatever, I can just send you the full local recording, and you can try and work some magic with that. So yeah, you just kind of missed a very important star, but don't worry, I messed up quite a bit on it, so you didn't miss much. But yeah, here we are in Spin Dig Galaxy, where we're introduced to the spin drill, and the spin drill is kind of a interesting power-up conceptually, but it also kind of slows you down. Basically, it lets you drill through planets. This planet is kind of interesting. There's a bunch of cool things you can do here. I did a homing ground pounder to get some momentum. I have to detour here to grab this comet metal. And then right here, I'm just going to kind of jump into the corner of this pillar, which allows me to kind of clip inside of it. And that just gets a little bit of walking around. Don't ask why I turned the camera there. I won't. It will make sense in a little bit. Alright, just kind of have to wait. Also, you might have noticed that I'm not really picking up star bits, and I'm shooting away the ones I do pick up. And that's just because after you complete a star, you get text boxes if there are coins and stars in your, if there are coins or star bits in your inventory. So, you know, not having those means you don't get those text boxes, which saves time. And also, I just shot Captain Toad in the face, so he wouldn't talk to me. So this is Dig-a-Leg. Anybody who is a top runner of this game hates this boss because it's almost entirely RNG. This first phase is free. But then for the second two phases, the second and third phases, it can vary wildly. So I want Dig-a-Leg to actually jump on top of here, and of course it didn't because why would it? So if it jumps on top of you, it basically just jumps straight to the other side of the planet, and then immediately becomes vulnerable. I don't know the exact odds, but it almost never seems to be in your favor. There you go. That's it. That's what I wanted to have happen. That was a really clean second. That was a really clean third phase. If any of those yellow guys are left alive, then it won't try to spawn anymore before it becomes vulnerable. So, yeah, all in all, not too bad. There's also some stars that bring you down to other areas of the starship for various NPCs. These sequences are basically almost entirely completely pointless and just waste time. So you just wait for Lava, aka Purple Idiot, to finish running his mouth, and then you just head back up here. Here's Right Side Down Galaxy. This galaxy is almost entirely in 2D instead of 3D, but there's a lot of gravity switching that's normally intended to be done. As you can see, gravity can either be on the floor or the ceiling for the most part. But there's a couple things you can do to make this level fast. Starting with this really cool backflip. And you're supposed to hit that lever to flip the direction of gravity, but there's a conveniently placed item block right there. This lets you get all the way down here. There's another slow boost. And then you're also supposed to switch to gravity here again, but once again, these elevators happen to be placed right next to where you need to go. Again, very convenient. Now we have a pretty tough section coming up here. So I'm going going to try to skip breaking a couple of these boxes, but it's very possible that I'll die. I didn't go for it there, but I will go for it here. That's pretty risky to go for, because if you get crushed in this game, it's an automatic one-hit kill, regardless of how much health you have. And you can just kind of go on this outer wall and not have to deal with the entire rest of the stage. You're actually supposed to be able to go up there. There's one-ups in the four corners. Pretty fun level, all in all, but also pretty challenging. So you didn't get to see this earlier because the stream was offline, but I am actually playing with two Wii remotes Velcro strapped together. So I'm going to be calling in the Co-Star Luma. This game doesn't really have real co-op, but the Co-Star Luma can do a lot of interesting things that benefit the speedrun in a few ways. So for starters, on this star, we have I'm going back in here to get the secret star, which, if you played this game casually, you might remember it's the box breaking minigame. The Co-Star Luma can actually break boxes for you, so that can save a tiny amount of time since you don't have to go out of your way to aim for extra boxes. But this does mean I am playing with two controllers at once, so there's an added level of multitasking here. So right there, I got the box that was directly behind me. Okay, that was basically perfect. So that's just one of the many tiny things that the Co-Star Luma can do for you. I'm not entirely sure how much time it saves with all the strategies I do, but with all the strategies I do, I'd estimate somewhere on the order of like 30 to 35 seconds over the course of the run. And it's something that has only semi-recently become a staple of the run. Another thing that the Co-Star Luma can do for you is grab coins for you, which can be helpful in certain missions where you need to grab coins without needing to go as far out of your way. And wouldn't you know it, that's what the next star is. So I'm going to be getting Fluffy Bluff's secret star first, which requires collecting 100 coins to feed to a hungry Luma. And again, having the Co-Star Luma means I can grab certain coins without needing to go out of my way for them, which saves movement time overall. You can also just use it to hold on to coins, which can make certain stars easier to do coinless, but I'm not really going to be doing that a whole lot. So as you can see, I already have 5 extra coins than I would have if I wasn't using 2 players. And I basically needed to dedicate no extra time to that. So now I do need to grab a few coins from this line. There's 100. From there you just feed them to the hungry Luma, and it transforms into a planet for some reason, because Mario Galaxy logic. Also, this galaxy introduces the Cloud Flower, which is a new power-up to this game. And the Cloud Flower is also pretty broken. There's a lot of things you can do with it to go fast. The big one is actually, after you make the cloud, you can crouch to cancel the cloud making animation, which allows you to move right away. You might have also noticed that a lot of those jumps went higher than you'd expect. Moving platforms in this game actually add momentum to Mario's jumps. So, for example, if a platform is moving upwards, your jump will go a lot higher, and when you create a cloud or jump on it, it kind of does a little bounce. So if you jump on it during that bounce, your jump can get a little bit more height. There's actually some crazy ways you can exploit that. There's what are known as cloud side flips that are insane to watch, but I don't really know how to do those consistently, so you won't be seeing those. So now I'm going to be re-entering and doing Fluffy Bluff 1, and there's a really big and really easy skip to do here. That saves like almost a minute. So I'm going to go up to this tree, and then get up onto this cloud where you're not supposed to go for the star. And there just kind of isn't a kill plane here. And when you are long jumping as Cloud Mario over an abyss, you can gain a lot of momentum for whatever reason. Just more floaty, I guess. And that allows you to cross that really wide gap. And these are cloud boosted long jumps, basically just exploiting that upwards momentum mechanic I was describing earlier, but using the long jumps instead. Shouts to Shadow SMG2, by the way. There's also certain stars that bring you down to this weird engine room of sorts, where you get to see power-ups that you've recently used in a previous star. You don't get to actually use the powers, you just get to look at them. So again, this room serves almost no purpose. Now it's off to the first of the 6 boss levels. So Galaxy 2 is kind of split into different worlds. And at the end of each world is a castle level where you get a Grand Star, which is what allows you to move on to the next world. This is Bowser Jr.'s Fiery Flotilla. And both this stage and this boss are pretty hard in a speedrun. The stage in particular is difficult because there's a tricky swamp cycle I need to make, and it's very easy to die with the movement I'm going to be doing. And here's another big exploit the Galaxy games have, gravity exploits. So the gravity field of this planet is just huge, so you can just jump into it from over there. That skips basically the entire level. And now it's time for Gobbleguts, one of the toughest bosses to speedrun in this game. So you're intended to fight Gobblegut by having it bury its face into the planet and attack each of the bellyache bulges as they pass by, but you can actually attack it while it's in the air. And this is basically one of those strategies where everything needs to go perfectly or else it all goes to hell. So, let's see how this goes. That was bulges 5, 6, and 1. And now for this phase, I'm just going to run down into the straight line, which will get Gobblegut to follow me and get closer to the planet. Then turn around right here. Okay, I can just get 3 of these in one go. That was a perfect Gobblegut fight. That is way harder than I just made it look, by the way. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of time to get that down. And in this run, I have to do it twice, so there's that. There you go. That is the end of the World 1 segment. Somehow, that was still a 28:59 World 1 segment. Like I said at the start of this run, this game has a lot of downtime. One thing I should probably mention is routing in this game is very, 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 very complicated. If I tried to explain all the tiny factors that go into routing, I would probably spend the entire rest of the run doing that. Just to give you an idea on how tiny things can affect routing, I have switched my route. I've switched my route 3 times in the last 5 years, and I've done the exact same set of stars for all 3 routes. It is just the order I do them in that has changed. But there are a bunch of different routing options depending on what stars you're comfortable with doing. There's one particular star that has a really, really difficult skip to do in real-time runs. It also depends on whether or not you use co-star. Yes. Here's Puzzle Playing Galaxy. I'm sure many people are fond of the music here. As far as speedrunning this level goes, it's kind of straightforward. Let's waste like half a second to grab this checkpoint because this section always scares me. Very easy to get knocked off by something. That tiny stretch of gameplay I was doing there. And then there's this last planet, which is just bizarre on so many levels. So, it's actually possible for a single ground pound to stomp these puzzle pieces more than once, but I'm probably not going to get it. No one really understands why it happens. Oh, there it is, yeah. It's something gravity related, but it's pretty much out of a player's control as to whether or not you get it to occur. So no, that was not a case of skill for me to get that. And we have a really easy mini boss that's just copied from Galaxy 1. Quick little fun fact, this game was intended to be DLC for the first Galaxy game. And in fact, the game's internal name is Super Mario Galaxy MAR. But they had so many ideas for it that they just eventually transformed it into a full-fledged game that would be a sequel to the original. Even though timeline-wise, this game makes absolutely no sense. Falls Galaxy, and I've activated the Co-Star Luma again. The Co-Star Luma has a very, very important role in this star. So this is another Yoshi Galaxy. It introduces the Dash Pepper, and when Yoshi eats it, he goes really, really fast, and can also travel up really steep walls, because, again, logic. So, here's what the Co-Star Luma is going to do here. It's gonna break Yoshi's egg for me, and that's literally the only thing I use it for here. But that does save a little bit of time, because it means Mario doesn't have to break the egg by itself. So, a lot of this star is basically just holding onto the Dash Pepper as much as possible to get the speed boost, and not running into any obstacles. For example, I'm going up the left side here to get that Dash Pepper. That section was actually pretty tight to get through without walking. And at the end of this part, I'm going to go for a rather tricky infinite flutter skip. Which gets me all the way down here. That's the more advanced version of doing that flutter. blink. So what happened at the end there? Basically, if you dismount off of Dash Pepper Yoshi, you conserve a lot of that momentum, and if you dismount off of Dash Yoshi while going up a really steep slope, you can get a lot of upwards momentum as well. That's basically what happened there. Makes for a really awesome ending to that star. Up next, we're gonna go to Cosmic Cove Galaxy. And this is gonna be another coin collecting mission. Well, it's really weird how the routing works out here. So I'm gonna be doing Cosmic Cove 1, but I'm also gonna be unlocking the Hungry Luma while I'm doing the star, just because routing-wise it works out better. And since I need coins to do that, I'm gonna use the Co-Star Luma again to help me collect coins a little bit easier. Okay, my pointer's acting up. I don't like that, but I think it's a deal here. So normally if you kill those things, these little worm guys, you only get star bits, but if you shoot them with a star bit first, then you get coins. Don't ask me why that is. There's a backup coin over there you can grab, but I didn't need to get it this time. So yeah, just with the way everything is positioned in this level, it's just better to ground pound that switch that freezes the lake, and then feed the Hungry Luma, and then just go ahead and get Cosmic Cove 1. And the launch star will stay there when I re-enter the galaxy, so I can get Cosmic Cove Secret Star right away afterwards. That was a pretty decent star overall. Now I get to watch a male toad walk in place for several seconds. That's just kind of one of the downsides of this route. Now I'm going to be re-entering Cosmic Cove in order to get the Secret Star. And this is a very important part of the run because I need to not select Cosmic Cove 2. Otherwise I lose 30 seconds. Okay, we're good. Now, again, the launch star is still going to be there, so I can just make a direct beeline to it. Also, unlike Galaxy 1, you can't spam spins underwater in this game. There is a cooldown, so swimming with the shell ends up actually being a little bit better. This planet, there is a Star Bunny, and there's a fast strat I can go for here that hopefully I can pull off. Nice. So you're supposed to ground pound a switch to freeze the lake and skate to catch that bunny, but if you stun it with star bits like that, it just runs in the wrong direction. So it just runs right into you if you do that. So now I'm going to be unlocking my first Hungry Luma Galaxy, and you might be asking, well wait, if you're not getting any star bits in any levels, where are you going to get your star bits from? And the answer is this guy. So this is the bank toad. The way it works is you deposit star bits from one save file into it, and it will keep those star bits into it for other save files. So these are star bits I've gotten in another file, and I'm just going to kind of bring them over here. And these are all the star bits I'm going to use to unlock Hungry Luma Galaxies. So yeah, that does mean that this category is kind of a New Game Plus, but it's basically the standard. And while unlocking Hungry Luma Galaxies does take a bit of time, they usually have really fast stars, so it's well worth it. And no, I do not have to farm star bits every single time I need to get my bank toad refilled. Most Galaxy runners have an SD card or something that they just store they just have a save file with a filled-in bank toad on that SD card, and then every time we need to refill bank toad, we just restore that save data. So here's Honeybloom Galaxy. I'm going to be starting off with the Secret Star, which is also the fastest star in the run. And not counting green stars, I'm pretty sure this is just the fastest star in the game in general. So yeah, that took like 16 seconds in-game time. Very worth it. I'm actually going to be going back in there to get the other Honeybloom star, which is the main star of the level. And you might be thinking, well, Honeybloom is a very slow galaxy because you have to use the bee suit. Well, that is the case if you actually use the bee suit for the entire level. But I'm going to be trying to skip it as much as possible. It's actually quite amazing. We didn't used to think the star would be anywhere near fast enough to be in the route, and now it's basically become a staple of most of the any % routes. But it is a pretty difficult star to do quickly enough. So this is the big section here. So you're not normally supposed to be able to stand on those clouds and flowers unless you're in D Mario form, but there's I think a 6-frame window where you can jump off of them before it vanishes into thin air, which is actually a somewhat lenient timing window. Here, though, I have no choice but to use the bee mushroom. So I'm going to intentionally lose by taking damage from that Shaka, which will get me through here a little bit quicker. That pole section is also kind of tricky to get through. If you get hit, then it's just really hard to back up. It's actually possible to skip the bee mushroom for the entirety of this final section, but there's no way that's ever going to be done RTA, so I'm just going to slowly fly my way to the end here. That was a really good level. That's another star that's super easy for any small mistake to just cascade into several dozens of seconds of time loss. You may have noticed I had the co-star Luma present hasn't, even though I didn't actually do anything with it. That was mostly as a safety net. But I am going to be using it quite extensively in this next star. So now we're going to be going to the first Bowser level, Bowser's Lava Lair. This is a pretty technical level. A lot of small shortcuts you do here, a lot of damage abuse, as is the case in levels that have lava. And if all goes well, this is a pretty entertaining star, both to play and to watch. So at the very start, you are supposed to kill that Match Koopa to get a full star, but you can just long jump this gap. And then here I'm going to use the co-star limit to grab the life mushroom and give me 3 extra bars of health. And, which is important because I want as much health as possible. You could also opt to just hold coins behind you for the entirety of the level, but I find this strategy to be a little bit easier. It's a little bit safer anyways. I'm going to use 2 lava bounces here. Turn the camera so that the upcoming wonks are off screen. That's not good. What the actual heck? I don't think I've... Can I get a that's never happened before? Alright, so now I am gonna have to hold a point behind me. Okay, not entirely sure how this is going to work now. So ideally, if I didn't die there, I'd still have the extra health here, but now I have to hold a coin behind me in order to make this skip possible. So with these locks, it's actually possible to hit 2 of them at once if your positioning is really precise. And in my PB, I actually got it not once, but twice. So that death would have actually cost me a lot more time if I didn't have Co-Star. Because I would have likely had to do a bunch of improvisation, but since I can hold coins behind me to refill health when necessary, that probably only cost me like 15 seconds maybe. Now I have the Bowser fight, which is pretty freaking boring. Really, the only things that can be optimized are getting Bowser to punch as quickly as possible and ground pounding the orbs into him as quickly as possible. And also making sure that you don't actually miss a hit, because that loses like 20 seconds each time that happens. Second phase of the fight, Bowser gets angry, and now he is going to breathe fire, which is super easy to dodge. But I need to pay attention to where the fire ends, because that's where he's going to start aiming his next punch. I do not like this positioning. You need to make sure Bowser punches close enough to a meteor, but not too close, because he can't punch the meteors away. These fights aren't necessarily RNG, but it almost never goes the same way twice. Alright. That was a good world too, up until that death happened. But I think I might have underestimated how much that cost me. But then again, my gold here is also stupidly good and also not really accurate because it has that double lock thing I talked about, which is extremely rare. That's the end of the World 2 segment. Okay. I don't really have a whole lot to say during these, like, cutscene transitions. And if anybody in chat has any questions, feel free to ask. So in World 3, we're going to start with Cloudy Court. And this is basically just cloud physics abuse being taken to the extreme. Boosted into a cloud flower, which replenished my cloud stock and allowed me to use all 3 clouds across that gap. We'll see me do a similar thing near the end of the star. This last 2D section is pretty difficult. These crushers coming up here, there's a common metal inside of them. I'm going to try to one-cycle them. There's a few different setups for that, but they're all really, really hard. That setup is pretty consistent, though, if you grind it out and get it down. But it's a pretty punishing strat to miss, because not making the cycle by itself is a 10-second time loss, but if you get crushed, then you go all the way back to the start of that section, and that's even worse. Now we're off to Freezy Flake Galaxy. So this galaxy is somewhat important, I guess you could say, when it comes to the 80% route. Because I'm only going to be doing 2 stars here, but optimally you would do Freezy Flake 2 as well. The problem is that to make Freezy Flake 2 fast enough for the route, you have to do a pretty difficult skip that involves major exploitation of the rock mushroom, which is a power-up you'll see later. And I'm not very consistent at that skip, especially not consistent enough to pull it off in a marathon, so you're not going to be seeing that, unfortunately. That being said, if you want to do some chat engagement here, for this first star, I'm going to be doing the skating minigame. If you want to guess what my score is going to be, because I will be going for the highest score I can, your guess must be somewhere between 500 and 900 points, and you can only guess in multiples of 10. Also, pressing Z makes you skate backwards, because, yes. So So, my rules are, for the winner is, if nobody gets it exactly right, whoever was closest. I want to see chat fill up with numbers. Okay, only one person guessed, so they win by default. Not a whole lot about that star. It's just an easy, quick star to add to the count. If you missed your opportunity there, don't worry, there's another opportunity later on that's almost the exact same thing. So, I'm gonna get Freezy Flake 1 now. And there's really only one, I guess kinda two, but really only one noteworthy thing about this star, which is that for most of it, you're on a very strict time limit. Because the Fire Flower only lasts for a certain amount of time, and I'm going to try to get all the way to the Comet Medal in the next section with this Fire Flower. You have like a couple of seconds of leeway here. Missing that is really, really bad. And besides that, that star is really not noteworthy of the slightest. So, here we're going to get a short visit from Luigi, and then I'm immediately going to ditch him. So, from this point onwards, you can actually, Luigi will start showing up at the start of various galaxies. You can actually switch to playing as him for those stars, and Luigi does run faster and jump higher than Mario, as is the standard. But it takes too much time. You lose too much time from switching to him for the amount of time he would save. So this entire run is just going to be done as Mario. And you're only able to switch between Mario and Luigi freely in post-game. But, you know, I'm kind of not going to be seeing post-game in this run because this run's just about beating the game. So at the start of this star, I actually turned the camera a few times. That was intentional. When, for the most part, if something is not on screen, it doesn't exist and therefore doesn't move. So I use that to manipulate the cycles of these first two sets of platforms in order to make this cycle. But these two platforms only start moving when you enter a certain trigger zone, so they're not exactly cycle-based. And then there's the Comet Medal platform, which I still don't fully understand. And in this ending section, we have Yoshi, so you can probably guess what's going to happen next. So much for eating the bulb berry. Now at this point, comets are going to start appearing. which are basically, you know, harder versions of stars that have some sort of extra challenge added to them. In order for a comet to spawn in a galaxy, you need the comet metal from that galaxy and a certain number of comet metals total. So that's why I've been collecting those comet metals. But it'll be a while before I actually start doing comets. There's a few stars I'm going to do first. So now it's time for Honey Halls 2. This is basically just a long jump simulator. And while optimizing long jumps is actually quite a bit more precise than you would think, and actually there's some frame perfectness related to getting good versus not so good long jumps. Aside from that, this level is literally straightforward.
Yes!
If you've never actually seen a galaxy speedrun, this is probably all that you imagine them as, is just long jumping a bunch. Yeah, pretty brain-dead star. There are some parts where you could actually die there, though, so it's not, like, free or anything, but it's not too bad as long as you know what you're doing. Okay, so next up is another Hungry Luma Galaxy. This time it's going to be Beat Block. Shouts to that last Starbit for always shooting out later than the rest. I still have no idea why that happens, and I don't think anybody else does either. So B-Block 1 is also just a bunch of long jumps, but there's actually a bit more to it than that this time around, because there are cycles involved, because it switches between the green and yellow blocks every 8 beats of the song. So you kind of need to maintain a decent pace in order to not lose any cycles. And I think missing a cycle is an automatic, like, 7-second time loss. So let's not do that. That being said, I'm going to kind of play intentionally slow at the start here. But since I didn't get caught on those green blocks right there, but now I actually do have to go fast. This long jump is kind of scary. That's one of those angles you need to hold that's not on a notch, so getting the precise angle is pretty tricky. Okay, that's not how I meant to grab that star, but that works. And now I'm going to begin the first backtracking session of the run, or I guess first cleanup. I'm going to be going back to World 1 and getting 2 comets and another Hungry Luma Galaxy Star. Because I actually need a few more stars than I'd otherwise be able to get in World 3 in order to actually complete World 3. I don't want to do any super slow stars, so we're just going to get some stars that I couldn't have gotten before. Starting with Flip Swap Galaxy. This galaxy is kind of annoying in speedruns. Because remember the whole upwards momentum inertia thing that I was talking about with clouds? You can also do that with the flip swap handles in this level to achieve what are often called silly jumps. And you can combine them with a long jump to go really high and really far. But it requires pretty strict timing and positioning, and if you mess it up, half the time you die. So this is one of those levels that is pretty. This is one of those levels that's a pretty common reset point. Very easy to make stupid mistakes. But if it goes perfectly, then it works amazing. So there you go. There's one silly jump. I did not touch that laser. Surprised that one worked. You can also cancel your long jump. You can also cancel a spin with a long jump, kind of like that. This lets you switch the platforms while still maintaining momentum. Alright, I'm gonna wait like a half second there so I can get past that. That was basically perfect. Also, at the start of that star, I got what's called a jump cancel. It's not possible in every level, but on that fly-in cutscene, there's a 1-frame window where you can jump out of the landing animation. I think it's either 1 or 2 frames, I don't exactly remember, but that can save a little bit of time. But this is a 60 FPS game, so frame-perfect inputs are not the easiest thing in the world to hit. So I'm activating the Co-Star Luma again here for a very minor purpose. Another thing the Co-Star Luma can do is actually freeze enemies. And there's even certain enemies that it can straight up kill, which will also be useful in certain other stars. But I'm only going to use the freezing property here. This is the first Romp Comet. Basically, you just kill a bunch of enemies in a time limit. Here I have to kill 30 Spinies using Rainbow Mario. And the difficult thing with Rainbow Mario is actually keeping momentum, because you basically kind of have P-speed with it. So, the longer you're running on the ground at full speed, the more speed you build up. But if you slow down at any point, then you lose that speed. And also remember what I said about enemies don't exist if they're off-screen. That applies to these Spinies as well. So if a Spiny dies and then it goes off-screen before it completes the death animation, the counter doesn't increase. So you need to make sure that a Spiny completes its death animation on screen. So I use the Co-Star here to freeze that one Spiny so that it doesn't go into the mud, which would make it a lot harder to kill. You don't necessarily need to use Co-Star to keep it from going into the mud, but it's a lot more consistent if you do it that way. And then in case you're wondering why I'm not just turning on why I don't just have my second Wii Remote turned on for the entire run, it's to preserve battery life. So I only have my second Wii Remote turned on when I absolutely need it. Time for Sky Station Comet. Certain routes don't even do this star because other routes don't do Sky Station 2, which in turn means you can't do this star. This is basically just Sky Station 1, but with a time limit, and you need to collect clocks in order to actually give yourself enough time. Also, this is the best song in the game, but you don't get to hear that much of it in this category. And if you'll notice, this is actually a shortened version of Sky Station 1 because you skip a bunch of planets. Now I have to do the Pee-wee boss fight. I actually skipped grabbing a clock there because I was a little bit slow for the cycles I was on, but this just means it's a little bit riskier here. As long as I don't do anything stupid, I'll have more than enough time. It's actually possible to soft lock that fight by shooting Pee-wee with a star bit, like, right as it's about to transition into a cutscene. And if you do that on Sky Station 1, you have to reset. But it's pretty easy to avoid that as long as you're careful. So that's going to be it for the first cleanup. Now I'm going to head back to World 3. There's a couple more stars I need to do before I can move on to the boss, starting with Tall Trunk. Tall Trunk is another galaxy. This star is really impressive if done well, but it's super difficult to do well. For starters, I'm going to be attempting this beginning tree climb sequence without Yoshi, and just using Mario's platforming skills to do it. Very easy to make mistakes here. That berry bounces. Saves a little bit of time with alternative strategies, but it's really hard. Now, I am going to be using Yoshi on this planet. And I have to do a really hard backwards infinite flutter here. Infinite fluttering straight backwards is a lot more risky, because if you hold forwards at any point during it, then you lose your ability to go backwards. And then we have a really cool starship section here. And then I ditch Yoshi here to get to this launch star a little bit faster. Alright, I'm gonna go for a strat where I try to do this fall without grabbing any of these coins. This is really hard to do. Oh my gosh, I actually got that. I rarely get that. So remember, completing stars coinless means you don't get the text box you would normally get for counting up coins after the star, which saves like a second. So as long as I don't collect any more coins for the rest of the star, then I should save that second. It doesn't always save time. Sometimes it doesn't actually make a difference, but usually it does. And then I ditch Yoshi at the end there to get to the star a little bit faster. That was a really good star. Just to assuage anybody's concerns, whenever I ditch Yoshi in a pit, he doesn't actually die. He just transforms into an egg when he hits the death barrier and then respawns somewhere else. So, no, I am not killing Yoshi. And then even when I ditch him in areas, where there aren't any pits, Yoshi is immortal and he will live forever. So now here's a Cloudy Court Comet. This is another pretty simple star, as long as you don't screw up. You've seen these guys a little bit already, but they're cosmic clones. They basically copy your movements frame perfectly. They usually aren't that big of a problem, but they can be. If you touch the very edges of these starships in this first part, you can actually prevent them from spawning altogether, for at least until this first section is over. So in this 2D section, this is where they get really bad, because if you make a mistake during the wall jumping section, they also make that mistake. So when you try to get back up, they're all in your way, and it's impossible to finish the level. You just die, and you get really angry. Okay. So up next, we can now actually go to the castle level of World 3. This is going to be Bowser Jr.'s Fearsome Fleet. This is pretty much just... The level itself is basically just infinite flutter from beginning to end, because the level's all one height and you get Yoshi right at the start. There are many different ways to go about doing this level. I'm going to be going about it the fastest RTA way, which is also the hardest. It uses what's known as the question block flutter. And if you fail the question block flutter, you lose a minute. So, let's not do that. So, first I'm going to get on Yoshi here, and then I'm going to side flip, and then infinite flutter to this asteroid over here, which has collision for some reason. And then I need to infinite flutter from here to a question block that's just out in the middle of a void. And then I need to get a very precise angle once I'm on the question block. Oh, I didn't get a shake there. That could have been a little bit faster, but it didn't die at least. That is definitely, I don't know if I'd say it's the hardest flutter in the run, but it's one of the scariest. Now we have to fight Mega Hammer, which is a boss that is horrible when you have an uncooperative sensor bar. So, let's get some prayers in chat that it doesn't screw up on me. This has a lot of aiming with the pointer in it. A lot of this fight is canceling animations and preserving bullet bills for the right times. Here I'm rolling 3 bullet bills. I can use 2 of them to take up this back spot. I'm gonna get the 3rd one in Yoshi's mouth, and I basically just have to hope that it stays in Yoshi's mouth after the cutscene. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And of course it didn't. We're supposed to wait for Mega Hammer to lower its head in order to actually hit it here. It still has a hitbox, so you can just side flip and flutter to get enough height to reach it. If the bullet bill had stayed in Yoshi's mouth during the cutscene, I would have just used that bullet bill instead of waiting for another one. That was actually a really good World 3 overall. I only made a couple minor mistakes throughout that. Okay, I gotta keep track of my comet medal count. Because if you miss a comet medal, then the only way to... Like, missing comet medals isn't... It's not the worst thing ever in this category, but it is still an automatic time loss, because it usually means you have to do a much slower star. Because the problem is you have to re-enter the galaxy, and not only do you have to get the comet medal, you actually have to get a star for the comet medal to count. It's time for World 4. I'll be starting off with Sweet Mystery. This is pretty much just the same as the previous star, it's just a bunch of infinite fluttering, but without a boss fight. And it's not as difficult. kind of give an idea of how good that World 3 was. Looking at my comparison against my best segments, it looks like I only lost 27 seconds to my sum of best throughout that entire World 3 segment, and 10 of those were on Fearsome Fleet. Sorry if the changing live split colors is throwing you off. Okay. So like I said, this star, just a bunch of infinite fluttering. Getting the flutter to go all the way to the common metal like that is actually really hard. Especially if you don't set up the angle like I did. This last flutter skips having to hit all those flip switch panels to get a launch star. If you fall during this infinite flutter, you don't actually die. You land on an invisible floor. And that's a really terrible mistake to make. Because if you don't take the launch star, then the kill plane doesn't load properly. We'll be coming back there eventually to get the comment, but for now let's move on to Flipsville. Flipsville 1 is an insanely broken level. There's like 3 different... There's a bunch of different ways you can skip planets in this star. But obviously there's only one route that is the absolute fastest, and that's what I'm going to be going for. So there's a jump cancel that literally does not save any time because I have to wait for this thing anyways. Then I get on top of the wall, and I just use this to get over to the common metal. I can just go like this. And the gravity just pulls me in there. I can jump on top of this roof. And then backflip, slide off that roof to get a little bit of backwards momentum. And once I get close enough to the boss planet, I spin and enter its gravity zone. And that skips nearly the entire level. Definitely one of the more visually impressive skips in the run. And then you fight Flamdozer, which is a pretty simple boss. You can just camp out underneath its chin, wait for it to become vulnerable, and then turn around. Fun star overall. So that's one of 3 star bit letters you get from Rosalina that give you 50 star bits each. And that's actually going to account for 150 of the star bits I need for the last Hungry Luma I'm going to be unlocking. Alright, Flipsville 2. Not as entertaining as the previous star, but Nintendo didn't even bother trying to make it so you couldn't skip the spin drill here. And you'll see what I mean in just a second. Yes. Yeah, right there you can just jump around that wall. And then here you can wall jump on the structure. Alright. this part of the star is actually really tricky. Very tight cycle I need to make here. And if you miss that cycle, it's in like 8 seconds. Wait there intentionally for a little bit. I don't understand why this works, but for some reason, if you wait there for just a little bit, and so that the gravity flips right after that cutscene ends, and then you can just drill in there and your hitbox automatically grabs the star. If I hadn't waited there, if I just drilled right away, then Mario wouldn't have collected the star after I drilled it into that room. I would have had to jump to get it. Like I said, this game is weird. Okay. So I'm calling back in the co-star Luma because I'm going to be using it frequently throughout the next star. Chompworks 1 is kind of interesting because with only one player, it's pretty much just a bunch of auto-scrollers. But when you add in the co-star Luma into the mix, there's a lot of really cool things you can do to save time. So in addition to being able to break things and get things from far away, the Luma can also hit levers from far away. So I can use that right here in order to get that lever. I can go down here. And I both crouch and stand still upon entering that launch star to get that cutscene to end earlier and to make it so that I can move immediately after landing here. And then I can use the 2D Luma here again to freeze this chain chomp. So that it doesn't get in my way. And then for here, I want to barely nudge the left edge of that seesaw platform before I hit the lever. So that it lowers just enough that the chain chomp can get onto it without breaking. And now, coming up, we have the single biggest time save that co-star has to offer in this run. So normally, it's not you're not able to be fast enough to lower the platform before this first golden chomp breaks. But with co-star, you can just hold it in place and lower the platform before it gets there. And that, just by itself, saves 8 seconds. If there's any co-star strats you want to learn, that's one of them. But then, the last of the star is basically just an auto-scroller. You're just waiting for the golden choke to get to the end. If you backflip right as that button... if you backflip right as the button springs up, you're able to get a lot of upwards momentum, and it looks really cool. And it wastes no time to go for. Yeah, just to give you an idea, all those co-star strats combined save about 11 seconds, 10 to 11 seconds over what I would have been able to do with only one controller. Okay, so at this point, we're going to park our journey through World 4, and I'm going to do another cleanup session. So we're going to head back to World 2 and get a bunch of stars I either could have gotten before, but it's better to get them now, or couldn't have gotten before. So first off, we have Puzzle Plane Comet, which is the first purple coin comet. In fact, you actually need to collect this star in order to unlock all the other purple coin comets. And again, I have the co-star limit here in case I miss purple coins, and I don't want to have to go back for them, because then I can just grab them instead of needing to go all the way back around for them. Also, there's cosmic coins here because fun. Right there, I already missed a purple coin. I would have had to waste like 2 seconds going back for it if I didn't have the co-star, but right there I did it again. up a little bit throughout that star, but again, Co-Star would have, without Co-Star would have been a lot worse. So now I'll be able to get other purple coin comets in other galaxies. But not that one. That star, Flip Swap's comet, actually is in faster any percent routes, but it's only really worth it if you do the Freezy Flick 2 star. And I don't do that star, and even if I did, I wouldn't do Flip Swap comet anyways, because I don't like doing that star. Now it's time for Boulder Bowl Galaxies, where we're introduced to the Rock Mushroom. And the Rock Mushroom has a lot of interesting tech you can use with it. You can do mid-air rock jumps, which you won't be seeing me do in this run, but they're used for that big skip I was talking about. But there's other weird things you can do with it as well. So I need to kill all 3 of these enemies here to unlock it so I can get the comet medal. And there's a really big skip in this level to skip an entire planet. So if you're Rock Mario and you go onto a ramp, the ramp just launches you forward, but if you're in a spin jump animation, then it doesn't launch you forward and you can just roll on it like normal and jump off of it. Like that. And that just skips an entire planet and saves at least a minute, because the planet is really, really hard to do. Any sort of speed capacity. Now it's time for the boss, Rolodillo. I'm going to quickly shout out fellow 3D Mario runner, Rodeo, who's also very good at this game. This boss is pretty fickle, because you don't ever want to be in its direct line of sight after that first hit, otherwise it does this really obnoxious rolling attack. But you're chasing it while it's chasing you, so getting proper lines and stuff is not easy. Usual spin jumps does give you a little bit of extra boost, so that I can make it in one roll. Unfortunately, I had to use an extra roll there, but if I had ended up in Rolodillo's line of sight, it would have been much worse. So here's one interesting bit of routing that this route utilizes. So, because I just collected Boulder Bowl 1, I'm now brought down to the engine room in order to get Rock Mario here. But because I just collected this star and Chompworks 1, I'm also brought up here to this mail tote to receive a letter. And that just warps me straight out of the engine room and saves a little bit of starship movement. And believe it or not, that letter star is actually the next star I'm going to do. This is your typical escort mission-based star. I'm going to get to do the skip you saw earlier, but without the rock mushroom. It is way easier. That gap, go up this ramp, long jump to the left, spin, and easy. Now I have to lure this Goomba over to the gear mode here. I'm going to use the Co-Star to freeze this chain jump so that there's no risk of the Goomba getting crushed. There's only 2 Goombas, and if both of them die, you have to restart the mission, and also the game can soft lock on that cutscene. It's not entirely know why that soft lock happens. So that's it's always fun to get to this star in a run and worry about whether or not you're gonna soft lock. So now the next, I think, 5 stars are just going to be comets. But it's going to be a healthy mixture of repeats and new takes on stars. Unfortunately, this first star falls into the former category. So this is Hightail Falls Comet. It's just Hightail Falls 1, but on a time limit. And Nintendo gives you way too much time to do these missions. Maybe not for casual players, but for speedrunners, it's definitely way too much. And once again, I have my co-star Luma handy so that I can break the Yoshi egg faster. But this star is a little bit different than Hightail Falls 1. For one, you have holes in the ground and meteors falling, which usually aren't a problem. And then also the ending of the star is going to be a little bit different since I don't need to get the Comet Medal. One nice thing about the co-star Luma is that with the extra pointer, you're not normally able to spit out star bits while you're on Yoshi, because pressing the B button with the one-player pointer just sticks out Yoshi's tongue, but the second player can't spit out star bits. So instead of doing that crazy flutter you saw me doing, I'm actually going to be taking the launch star. And I'm going to be doing something really cool looking here. So, I don't want to get too much into this, because it's a really complicated subject, but there's basically a variable in the Galaxy games known as tilt, where the farther... Basically, the way tilt works is, depending on a planet's gravity and its curvature and all that, if you're leaning farther back on a planet, then your jumps go a little bit higher. And obviously, when you're transitioning on that slope there at the very top of that wall, you're leaning super far back, so you get a really big jump. And that is a little bit faster over the alternative method of getting to that star. Here's Boulder Bowl Comet. This star is pretty much all RNG. If you're basically, if this is the kind of star, if you're gonna be comparing to a really, really good split here, you're almost guaranteed to lose time. Because I have to kill 30 crabbers on that planet, and they just kind of do whatever they want to do. And I just kind of have to see and react. So, there's one useful thing you can do with the rock mushroom that makes the star a little bit easier. You're not normally able... Normally, when you begin a roll, you have to wait for the roll to actually complete before you can start a new one, but you can cancel it early by basically doing the same inputs as a compound. And that makes this star a lot easier. That was insanely good. That was only, well, let me actually look. That was only 6.4 seconds off my gold, which is really, really solid. It's very easy to lose up to like 20 seconds on that split. For mostly no fault of your own. And if you run out of time, you actually have to redo the entire star. And that's an automatic minute lost. Okay, last star in World 1 I'll be getting is Fiery Flotillus Comet. This is the Gobblegut fight, but on a time limit, and if all goes well, it'll go exactly the same as what you saw before. once again, I basically need this fight to go perfectly or else I have to improvise, which is impossible, and basically automatically costs you like 20 to 30 seconds. Got's movement after that second hit was a little weird, but it worked. Alright. Double perfect Gobblegut, always good to get. Again, that fight is way harder than I just made it look. And we're not entirely done with cleanup yet, but that is the last of the stars I'll be getting in Worlds 2 and 1. So I'm going to be heading back to World 4 now. So, Sweet Mystery comment, this is a really tough star to optimize because you're spending most of the time on Yoshi, and Yoshi walks really, really fast, which makes it super easy to just miss purple coins when you're trying to take the tightest turns possible. And I'm also going to be using the co-star limit here a lot to grab purple coins. So there's a huge amount of multitasking I'm going to be doing here. Using the co-star limit to grab these purple coins instead of like going out of my way to get them, I save just a tiny bit of time with movement, and it also makes it easier in case I miss a purple coin somewhere. For example, the cycle that block is on would normally matter if you didn't have the co-star, but I don't have to worry about it here. That was actually pretty solid. I missed a couple of purple coins, but I didn't lose too much time from it. Yeah, a minute flat is really, really, really good IGD for that star. Fluxville comment, all cycles. And while there are faster cycles that are mostly co-star exclusive than the one I'm going to be doing, the route I use is still pretty tight, and I have the co-star limit ready, again, in case I miss purple coins, so that I don't need to lose too much time to that. There's a bunch of weird shenanigans you can do here. Well, first of all, when you drill with the spin drill, your hitbox grows abnormally huge. Which allows me to collect a bunch of purple coins and move like that. Side flipping in those rooms is way harder than it looks. It should be pretty much. Okay, I didn't get that. Guys, so I gotta do that. That was about the best you can hope for. we go. Now we can finally start seeing some new content. So we're going to be heading back to Chompworks and getting Chompworks 2, and if you've played this game casually, you might remember this as the one star in the game that has the spring mushroom, which everybody who's ever played Galaxy 1 hates. Thankfully, you do not have to use it that much in this star, because you can skip it on the first 2 planets. There's actually a fast cycle I can make on this star that used to require, like, near perfect movement on this planet, but there's a new way that was found somewhat recently to make the cycle a little bit easier. Yeah, I was able to run on the edge of that slope because the slope physics just don't affect you if you're on the very edge of it for whatever reason. And right there I'm using nunchuck spins to spin slightly faster after getting a wall jump, because yes, you can spin with both the mirror and the nunchuck. So to make this cycle a little bit more manageable to get, I'm gonna grab the spirit mushroom and go off to the left. And I've already screwed up. Wait, maybe? No, I don't think I'm making this. Are you kidding me? Oh, wait, no. I almost had it, but I was, like, just a tiny bit too late. That's unfortunate. It's not that big of a time loss if you don't make that cycle, but I kind of floundered a little bit, so it was a little bit more than it should have been. I just realized my star count for this split is wrong, but it doesn't matter. It says 42 when it should be 43. So I'm going to be finishing up the World 4 Grand Star here. Next, I'm going to be going to Bowser's Gravity Gauntlet. This is an interesting galaxy, to put it lightly. There's a lot of really weird things you can do with various gravity exploits and whatnot. But they're all really hard. And there are some pretty big time losses attached to them. So I'm going to be going for the OG Behind the Castle skip, which the name kind of speaks for itself. Very interesting strategy that has a lot of weird nuances to it as well. But if you mess it up, it's like an automatic 35-second time loss. So it takes advantage of the fact that, again, because this game is epic, slopes aren't as slippery if they're far away from the camera. So I'm going to use that here to get on top of this pillar in the background here. So you need to be a very specific distance away from the castle in order for that lava boost to work. And if you're not, then you die. So, pretty critical part of the run right there. There are faster strategies than the one I just used, but again, that's kind of the OG strategy. And it's doable with a little bit of practice. My spin got delayed a little bit there, so I thought I was gonna die. It wouldn't have mattered, and it wouldn't have mattered too much, but would have been kind of funny. So this Bowser fight takes a bit of a step in difficulty up from the previous one, because for one, Bowser only drops 2 meteors in this fight instead of 3 for some stupid reason, which means it's a lot easier for him to punch out both meteors. And there's also shockwaves coming out of Bowser's fists and his meteors that he drops, so there's more for you to dodge. Basically, you can literally just survive the first part of this by just holding up the entire time. And then on this first hit, I'm going to go for a punch cancel. So once Bowser punches here, I'm actually going to wait for him to start another punch before I ground on this. And in doing so, this will make Bowser think he's already punched, and he'll just spawn the next set of meteors right away. That's taking a couple seconds. I don't have to do that for any other hits in the fight. The second half of the fight is similar. You have to be careful when getting Bowser to punch, because again, he can't actually punch out both of those at once. And if he does that, then there's no meteors for you to ground pound into him, so you lose a cycle, and that's 20 seconds down the drain. There you go. That's the 4th Grand Star done. We're not exactly 2/3 of the way through the run, but we're getting there. Unfortunately, the last hour of the run is probably the hardest of the 3 hours. Worlds 5 and 6 are basically where runs go to die in this category, especially World 6. But I won't be doing anything in World 5 quite yet. Because once these text boxes are cleared through, I'm actually going to be going back to World 4, and we're going to do Starshine Beach. It's just faster to do it now than during the World 4 segment. Starshine Beach is one of the few non-linear galaxies in this game. This first star is a Silver Stars mission where everything's kind of spread out and about, and you get Yoshi during this star, which means a lot of cool stuff is going to happen.
Yes!
I got a pretty big infinite flutter I'm going to be doing here. This infinite flutter is kind of tricky because the perspective isn't the greatest. So it's kind of hard to line it up. That wasn't exactly how I wanted that to go, but that's another instance of dismounting off of Yoshi, Dash Yoshi while on a really steep slope, getting a lot of height. This combat medal is a little bit out of the way. I think it takes about like 10 seconds to grab this combat medal over just grabbing the star. But the combat it unlocks is really, really fast, so it's definitely worth getting. So, Starshine Beach 2 is another somewhat interesting star, because casually this is a very roundabout star, but in speedruns it's a bit more direct. As our old friends from Piana 5, the Chucksters, are actually going to play a pretty big role here. So the whole premise behind this star is doing a very roundabout way in order to get to that tower with clouds so that you can climb up the tower. Except, remember that exploit I used in Honey Bloom 1, where you can jump off of clouds within like a 5-frame window? I can use that here too, and in order to get high enough to get to the highest cloud, I'm going to use a Chuckster for some help. And again, turn the camera there, that's just some cycle manipulation. And that saves like a minute by itself. And the last star in this short little cleanup sesh is going to be Chompworks Comet, which is pretty much entirely an auto-scroller. Although you can get a somewhat free IL world record tie here, there is a frame-perfect time in this level that I don't know if you can actually get RTA, but you can get pretty close to it. The only problem is that this star is another Cosmic Clone star, which means if you mess it up, it's very painful. So really the only optimization you can do there is breaking that chain chomp as soon as the cutscene starts, because it makes the next one smaller. Now it's just a matter of making sure I don't break this golden chain chomp at any point. Also not getting owned by the Cosmic Clones. Pretty close to having the chain chomp break there. So the frame perfect time is 51.20 seconds, if I remember correctly. And I was 0.15 off of that, it looks like. Alright. Now we can actually move on to World 5. Starting off with Space Storm. I don't have a whole lot to say about this star. There's a cylinder planet, the second planet, that's quite tough to do. Because, as you can see, there's a lot of moving elevators there, and even one slight mishap means your cycles are all completely off. And it's a nightmare having to recover that. That was all complete improvisation. That did not go so smoothly. And now I need to not take damage from these things. Alright. I could grab that life mushroom for safety, but I don't think I'm going to need it. I am going to activate my buddy here. Whole stars, which are among the worst things in this game to try to optimize. So that was kind of rough. Like 15 seconds on that star at least. But I didn't die, so if I died it would have been a lot more. This is a very, very punishing game to run. It's a very difficult speed game at top level, because there's a lot of strats that are kind of hit and miss, and you either go for them or you do a much slower alternative, and going for them has a higher risk factor involved. So here's Space Storm 2. It has the buoy-based music from Galaxy 1, but you're not going to hear much of it because this is another really fast star. Okay, I think the cycles are already messed up. So you can jump on this wall and just skip the entire first half of this section. That did not go how I wanted it to. You got the idea, I think. Ideally, you can complete that star in like 28 seconds. But it's another star where you kind of have to make sure everything goes smoothly or else you'll get thrown off. Alright, chat. If you missed your opportunity to guess on the Freezy Flake skating minigame, you can now do so here. It's basically the same thing, except now the lower threshold is 600, which for casual play actually makes it a little bit harder to complete. But you still can only guess in multiples of 10. And again, if no one gets it exactly right, whoever's closest will win. So, get your guesses in now. Got the same RNG both times. So, the patterns for the gummits don't actually ever change, but they can be rotated in one of 3 different ways, and that's randomly decided. But once you know what rotation you're on, it's fixed for the rest of the game. And now I have no idea what I'm doing, so... this is not good. You should still be able to make this. As long as you don't fail the minigame, that's all that matters. 670 is not amazing, but again, doesn't matter what your score is as long as you don't fail the minigame. And no one guessed, so no one wins. Shiverburn 1 is a kind of interesting star. There's two somewhat large-scale skips you can do here, along with the boss fight that can be pretty jank. The start, I'm going to use the Cloud Flower here to basically allow me to skip from the beginning of this planet to the end second. That's actually not a huge deal. In fact, that's actually pretty good because it allows me to make this cycle. That's not what I wanted to happen. Okay, that's actually bad. Buddy. Coin. At least one extra health in order to lava boost past these guys. So I'm going to be doing a slower but safer strategy for Prince Bacante than what is optimally done in speedruns. Because I hate the faster strat. I'm going to intentionally miss that first one. And I'm going to try to hit the second one late. Because basically that sets it up so that it never does the upwards firing attack. Which you can use for a faster strategy, but it has a bunch of RNG to the fight. Whereas this method it loses like 10 seconds or something, but it's way safer. And if you do it right, it has no randomness attached to it. That's the last of the Rosalina Starbit letters. Alright, time for Boom Moon. This galaxy is kind of weird because a lot of it is just kind of auto-scrollers, but there's also a couple of interesting skips you can do here as well. So I'm going to be starting with Boom Moon 1, which has a really cool looking gravity exploit.
Yes!
Nice. There are certain areas where planets where if you land on them from a launch star, you can't go into first-person mode, but you can still do a camera cancel if you enter first-person mode on the first possible frame. And that's one of them. It's always really satisfying to get. Alright, so there's a gravity skip I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to activate this little section here, and then I'm going to go back to this set of snake blocks, and the gravity's going to flip. And that basically flips the gravity in such a way that it allows me to just launch them straight to that launch star a little bit faster. With the Silver Star section, that's kind of cool. pretty interesting star, I'd say. Not ever. It's actually one of the, like, how do I put it? It's one of those stars that's on the edge of being viable for the route. So certain any percent routes don't do it. And part of the reason why is because it has this male tone letter tied to it. Okay, so there's another, I need to not select Boo Moon 2 here when I re-enter for the Secret Star. I don't really like how my pointer is behaving, so I think I'm going to try to use the control stick. There we go. If your pointer is not on the screen, it selects whatever clear star is first in the list. And I actually use that throughout the run to select stars a little bit easier, but that's one of the cases where it's actually detrimental. And I got that frame perfect camera cancel twice, so that's actually pretty rare. So this is going to be for the secret star, and it's mostly just waiting on these snake blocks until the very end. Skip this last snake block by just long jumping out into the void and getting the star like that. That's actually easier than doing that the intended way. At least in my opinion. That's gonna be it for Boo Moon. There's not too many stars you get in level 5. Here's Upside Dizzy. This is the sequel Galaxy to Right Side Down. It's way more convoluted and difficult to optimize. But it's got some pretty flashy movement if executed properly. This first room has been going pretty smoothly so far. And then this hallway, you need a consistent route to get through here. Because if you get thrown off your cycles at R, which has already happened, then you again have to improvise, and that's never good. So yeah. That was pretty rough. Yeah, because of the constantly going cycles in that hallway, if you get thrown, as you just saw there, if you get thrown off even the tiniest amount, there's very little ways you can save it. Re-enter for the secret star again. There's a couple difficult parts to this star. For one thing, getting into the pipe. That Goomba bounce likes to not work sometimes. This box minigame is a little bit easier to do optimally than the one in Right Side Down. You don't need to throw from as many weird positions. in weird angles. But it is a little bit tighter than the first one. Still got a 9 on the in-game timer. One thing to note is that the fireballs come from Mario's... Crud, I already forgot what it was. I think they come from his right hand. So you actually want, you need to be a little off-center compared to where you want the fireballs to go. Otherwise, you'll shoot them off to the side. You got another pretty easy star next, which is SuperViperT Comet. This is the third of 4 romp comets in the game. It's pretty similar to the one in Yoshi Star. You kill 30 Octoombas with the Rainbow Star. You can use Co-Star here to kill some of the Octoombas, but I prefer to just do it one player. Because when skating, you're not able to make as sharp of turns, but if you're just running with the Rainbow Star, then you can make even sharper turns. So I'm going to skate into the Rainbow Star to get some momentum, then jump out of it, and then to the star. Simple. And there's just one star left in the World 5 segment. This star is terrifying when you're on PB pace, because it involves cannon shots, which are pointer based. And the 2 cannon shots you need to make here are really precise, which is pretty difficult to do when you're nervous and your hand is shaking. And also, when you go to press A, it like causes it can cause your grip to like shift a tiny bit, which can cause you to miss the shot. And missing any of the cannon shots in this level is like missing the first one is an automatic 30 seconds. So this is another pretty terrifying level on good pace. This first cannon shot is the harder of the 2. Played it a little slow on that one. You're basically just aiming for that boomerang arrow's face. Very, very tiny target. The second cannon shot's a little bit easier, but you have cycles to worry about. And then afterwards, I'm going to skip using the cloud to get to the end of this section by just long jumping there. Really clean level. And here we have to fight Boomsday. This boss usually goes pretty smoothly, but every so often it screws you over, and this is a fight, again, where if you get screwed over, it's hard to recover. But the first 2 hits are pretty easy to get. The second hit, I have to wait for it to actually become hittable. I can't attack the cockpit while it electricity swirling from it like that. And this is the phase that's really important. If you screw this up, you're losing a lot of time. We're good. It used to be the joke that that's proof that Bowser Jr. dies because he doesn't show up in 3D World or in Odyssey, but he does show up in Bowser's Fury, so Bowser Jr. is not canonically dead. And with that, we are off to the 6th and final world of the run, which takes a little under 40 minutes if done well. But like I said earlier, this is where runs go to die. A lot of really tough stars here. And in case anybody's wondering, sub 3 is not, I'm not gonna say it's dead per se, but it's gonna be very hard. Especially because I'm probably gonna go for some safe strategies. But we'll see. In case anybody's wondering, my best possible time is a 2:59.18. We're gonna start off with Melty Monster Galaxy, which, depending on the strats you go for, can either be pretty chill or one of the hardest galaxies in the entire run. So Melty Monster 1 doesn't necessarily have anything too crazy, but it's a level where health management and cycles are, again, very important. Star again here for one specific purpose, to grab this coin. Because it is much easier going into the section with full health than with 2 health. This final part is just dreadful to go through because every single one of these planets has its own gravity field. It's easy to get pulled around every which way. These magmas are not the easiest things in the world to deal with. That was pretty solid. The next 2 stars are the really important ones as far as Melty Monster is concerned. Because if you don't do any super crazy strats, they're actually relatively simple. But the fast strats on Melty Monster 2 and Melty Monster Secret have a high risk, low reward thing going with them. So I think for the purposes of this run, I'll just try and safe it out. But we'll see what happens. The next 2 stars revolve almost entirely around the rock mushroom. This is a really great level to go for farming star bits if you ever need to do that. There's a lot of star bits here. But it doesn't take too long to get that many. So at the end of this level, there's a little zigzagging section, and it's possible to skip having to take the fences by just rolling across the tiny gaps in the middle. But it's super precise. It saves 3 seconds if you get it, and loses 45 if you miss it. See how I feel going into it. Okay, so going for zigzag skip is pretty risky, but taking the fences like I did is also pretty risky because occasionally they just bounce you in the wrong direction for no good reason and you die. It's a darned if you do, darned if you don't strategy, basically. Now it's time for Melty Monster's Secrets. So there's also fast strategies you can do here that I think for the sake of this run I'm just not going to go for, because this is not that bad of a run and I don't want it to go downhill. So if you remember the tech I used in Boulder Bowl 1 to disable the ramp, you can use that here in order to disable each of these ramps and then jump at the very edge of them and keep rolling as you go to the next section. But the jumps are extremely tight to make, and if you miss them, you die. So I'm just gonna save it out and just not go for them. It saves. You can save like 2.5 seconds per jump, but and if I would go for 4 of them, and if I got all 4 of them, that's like 10 seconds saved. So at top level, it is super important, but for the sake of this run, I don't really want to do it. I haven't had too much luck with it in actual runs lately, so I'm just gonna, take the time loss, trade it for consistency. Yeah, for that minigame, there's 56 pins you can hit in total. You need to hit at least 50 of them. And there are 3 of them that you skip on that one rotating platform. So, overall, I didn't go for anything crazy in Melty Monster, but it could have, like I said, that's a galaxy where basically any mistake is at least 30 seconds, if not more. So, getting through there with as little damage as possible is always the goal. This is the last Hunter's Nova Galaxy I'm going to be unlocking. So there goes all my hard-earned star bits, except they weren't really hard-earned, because I just got them from another save file. This is Flash Black Galaxy. And its gimmick is that every so often, the level is mostly in darkness, but every so often the lights flicker. Somewhat interesting, I guess, except you can just memorize the layout. I don't think I'm gonna go for the Yoshi. There's a Yoshi-less X. There's a Yoshi-less-ish way to climb up the mansion here, but it doesn't really save time. With 2P, it definitely doesn't save time, though, so I'm just not gonna bother. Again, I want to minimize the amount of time loss I have at this point in the run. Common Bell section here is kind of tricky. And Yoshi fell off. That could have I had done that properly, I would have gotten back on Yoshi, then bounced off the Jacko Goomba, and dismounted into the launch star. But Yoshi fell off because I had too much momentum. That's probably gonna cost me like 8 seconds or something. No, not that much. Sub 3 is a bit less likely now, though, unfortunately. So, this next star I'm going to be doing, literally the only reason this star is in the route, it's because it's better to take the bottom half than the top half, because the top half has a galaxy called Battle Belt, which is even slower than this galaxy, and also way more difficult. That being said, this star is kind of the resident sleeper level of the run. It's mostly just swimming underwater with the shell for 2 minutes. But it is kind of a nice, relaxing point. Gives you a little chance to collect your nerves. Alright, nice, I got that slow boost. It actually loses quite a bit of time to miss that. I got nothing. Again, anybody, this is a good time if anybody in chat wants to ask me anything about the run. You know, anything in particular. Try to do this second half of this star coinless. Which again will save me a little bit of time if I get it. But it requires that I barely graze the outer edges of these rings. And if I bonk on a wall head on, I lose the shell. Or not, I didn't get it. No, whatever. That's only like 1 second. The ending of this star has the potential to be pretty cool. Good angle, though. Think I might be close enough. It's if you're close enough to Captain Toad here, you can do a squeeze backflip where Captain Toad's hitbox pushes you out into the star. I'm gonna go for it. Nice. That's not really that much faster than just jumping into the star, but it looks cool. I'm gonna activate Co-Star once again. Next up is going to be Clockwork Ruins Galaxy. I'm going to be getting the secret star here because I want to be able to get the throwback, and this is the one star that's fast enough. This is a coin collecting mission, so again, the Co-Star was going to be helping me out here. I should probably make it very clear, again, this is a 1-player 2-controller run, so I'm handling both Wii remotes at the same time. There's also a lot of cycles here with these moving platforms, so if you die, then it's really bad. And I am already not off to the cleanest start. Even though the beginning was kind of sloppy, I still made the cycle I wanted to make. So, and then the Hungry Luma planet itself is really, really short because you can just use a wall jump to skip all of it. That's a pretty challenging start, especially when you, again, have to add in all the level multitasking that you have to do with Co-Star. But it's done, so I don't need to worry about it anymore. Now we get to move on to a galaxy. If you are Super Mario 64 fans, you'll probably recognize this galaxy, and funnily enough, I'm also going to be running Super Mario 64 in this marathon. So I guess you could consider this a prelude to that. I don't know. This is basically just Womp's Fortress, but, you know, revamped and all that. Unfortunately, it's not as flashy as it is in Mario 64, but still some cool movement you can do. This is actually where the shoot to the Wild Blue Star was in the original game. I gotta do some tricky platforming to get up. Sometimes if you spin block there, you aren't able to recover it. Okay. It's possible to use this Womp to clip through the floor and skip having to do that. And skip having to kill it there, but no. It's really dumb. It only saves a couple seconds, and if you fail it, you're most likely going to get crushed and die. And here's Womp King. This fight is pretty straightforward. You can't clip through it in this game, so you kind of have to fight it the standard way. I just need to be careful not to be on the ground when it stomps the ground like that, because then you get stunned. King Womp kind of vibrates as it's getting destroyed there, and if you jump on a frame when it's vibrating up, you get shot up into the air. It looks pretty hilarious. But I didn't get it. That was pretty cool. I should have 32 comet medals here. Yep. Okay, I didn't miss any comet medals. So this comet requires 32 comet medals, and so that's the reason why I got that many. Which meant I had to collect comet medals in almost every galaxy I visited. Time for Throwback 2, which is a Silver Star mission. Kind of forces you to go around the entire level. It also has Cloud Mario in it. And it's another pretty fun level as long as you do it right. is a little tricky. Sometimes you don't get enough height from those backflips and whatnot. Oh, I grabbed star bits at the last second, so I couldn't shoot them away. Alright, at this point, there are only 6 more stars I need to collect before I hit 70, and they're all going to be comets. So this is the final cleanup portion of the run. So the first of these 6 comets is definitely one of the more interesting stars in the run. I know I've used that word to describe a lot of stars, but I mean it this time. Because we're going back to Gravity Gauntlet, and if you remember that behind the castle skip I did earlier, I'm actually not going to be doing that again. Because it turns out there are even faster strategies. This isn't the fastest, but it's the one I prefer to do. It's a lava boost gravity exploit strategy. Basically, if you hit a lava wall instead of a lava floor, what should be vertical momentum is instead turned into horizontal momentum, and you don't have any friction when landing in lava, so you're able to get a lot of speed. And we can take advantage of that here. Uh-oh. That's okay. Here we go. So I need to do direction changes in midair at the right times in order to get pulled in by the gravity in the right way. And as you can see, that's a little bit faster than behind the castle. If you don't do your direction switches at the exact right times, then you're going to miss that. Next couple comets are pretty easy, thankfully. This is Starshine Beach Comet. So, this is another purple coin star, but you're doing it on Dash Yoshi, and you have 40 spare coins, so messing it up is, you know, I'm not going to say it's totally free, because, I mean, you are on a somewhat strict time limit, but as long as you're careful about it, then you should be able to pull this off pretty easily. The only minor difficult thing about this star is that in order to do it optimally, you want as many purple points as possible, so you need to make very tiny adjustments in the control stack. So if I get enough purple points, I can get this last one. So it's a tiny amount of time. We're kind of in the home stretch now. Alright, next 2 comets I'm going to be getting are from World 3. First is going to be the Honey Halls Comet. This is the last part of Honey Halls 2, but with Cosmic Clowns. It's still just a bunch of long jumps. this star, you can't tell because this is the Japanese version, but in the English version of the game, this star outright lies to you. Because it says the blocks are switching in double time, but it's actually 4 times as fast. And also the Silver Star area has expanded quite a bit. But for some reason, you get Yoshi in this galaxy, so you can just Infinite Flutter to skip like half of it. And here is just kind of about here. That was really good. Okay, just 2 more stars until the final Bowser fight. And both of them are in World 6, so we're gonna go back there. So here's Throwback Comment. If you remember Throwback 2 from about 8 minutes ago, if you loved that star, you're going to love this star because it's pretty much the exact same thing. There's just a timer on the bottom of the screen this time around. And a couple cycles were different, but that mostly doesn't matter. That's probably going to put my best possible time above 3 hours, so rips up 3. It wasn't going to happen this run anyways. Yeah, it's now 259.58.8. And there's no way I'm going to come within 2 seconds of my gold on the next 2 splits. I'm getting Co-Star back in here just for this star mainly, because this is another rock comment, which means that I'm once again going to be using the Luma to take out a bunch of the Octoombas for me. And again, this requires a bunch of multitasking. Because you kind of have to keep track of both the Octoombas, how many Starbits are in your count, where the cursors are, and control Mario all at the same time. Okay. And now my best possible time is above 3 hours. So, unfortunately, we're just going to barely miss sub 3 on unless I play out of my mind on this last split, but chances of that happening are pretty slim. So now it's time for the best skip in the run. So there's normally a cutscene on the space in this world map before you go to Bowser's Galaxy Generator. That takes like 30 seconds. I just skipped that cutscene. Yeah, you can also move to spaces on the world map by clicking on them with the cursor, and if you do that there, you just skip over the cutscene. It's the easiest 30 seconds you'll save, but you pretty much need to be playing at 16:9 to do it. Here's Bowser's Galaxy Generator, the final level. And this is a really good final level. Great music and has a lot of really cool strats, and the final fight is pretty intense. So I'm gonna have the co-star here with me, just in case I need it for anything. So we got another lava wall boost coming up, similar to the one you saw in Grounding on the Comet. I'm just gonna fight these kangaroos. This thing that I want to be able to walk out. A lot of cycles and obstacles to dodge on the cylinder planet. So let's hope this goes well. Top it all off, we've got a really cool infinite flutter that basically skips the entire rest of the level. So first things first, I'm gonna get on top of this castle here. Dismount at the end of that. So I said you can't normally last longer than 10 seconds in the air with the momentum, but if you dismount you can extend your momentum for a little bit longer. That's actually used in a lot of the flutter shortcuts. So there you go, that's basically the entire rest of this level skipped. Now it's time for the final Bowser fight. And the final Bowser fight is also kinda difficult. Bowser does go back to dropping 3 meteors in this fight, but he now pulls out his fist a lot quicker, so you have less time to react. Thank you, LD time. Let's hope this final fight goes somewhat decently. I'm gonna go for another punch cancel on this first hit, just like the one in Grabbing Outlet. Okay. Bowser's shell can actually deflect the meteors, and it seems to have a bigger hitbox in this fight than all the other ones. So, that can cause problems. Third and fourth hits are definitely the hardest parts of this fight. Bowser pulls out his fist insanely quickly. I have no idea how I just dodged that shot. if you hit Bowser too late, you can actually hit him as he's doing this phase where he summons in the meteors and cancel that phase by accident. So when he goes to punch, the meteors aren't there. And there's no way to hit him at that point. So that loses. That loses the cycle. And that's it. That's the end of the game, right? Bowser's clearly dead. And there's the final Grand Star. All I need to do is just run up and touch it, and that'll be the end of the run. Nope, there's more. And unfortunately, this final part of the fight is hilariously lame. You basically just ground pound 4 times and win. And Bowser's one attack drops a coin, so it's nearly impossible to die in this fight. And there's the shell. No, I'm in charge of the timer, so... Well, it wasn't quite the climactic ending I would have liked. Actually getting the right trajectories for those meteor hits can be somewhat fickle. This actually, I think, is a marathon PB for me. Which, considering what happened, all the things that happened in, like, the first third of the run, the lava layer death and all that, not too bad. Would have been nice if this were a sub 3, but I will definitely accept this. Again, I'm sorry for all the weird connection issues. I am local recording this run, so that doesn't have the going offline and frame drops and all that, so if you want, I can, like, send the video file and you can maybe do some, like, fancy editing with it or something like that for the VOD. But yeah, time goes as soon as the Grand Star cutscene begins. And there you go. 3 hours and 20 seconds. Not too bad. Not too bad. That is 1 minute and 8 seconds off my PB. I will definitely accept that for a no reset. So there you go. That's Mario Galaxy 2. If you want to get into running either of the Galaxy games, you can just join the Galaxy Discord. A lot of great resources there, a lot of helpful people. Because we need more activity. The games are kind of dead at this moment. Yeah. I don't really have anything else to say at this point, so I will throw it on over to you guys.